are starting out and talking about is this week we're kicking off our summer series, and it's all focused on toddlers. As we all know, I feel like there's so much information about kind of babies and lots of help and support, but when we add our toddlers and our preschoolers into the mix, there isn't a whole pile of information. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of come on here and kind of go through some of these main topics that we talk about, and being able to help you guys, give you guys some of my top tips and kind of solutions in with our little ones. So yesterday we were talking about kind of overtiredness and what do those signs look like, and those top 5 signs. So today actually was really interesting. Early morning wakings, I could have added that to yesterday, but what I actually find is there is a huge big part from early morning wakings that can kind of lead from yesterday, but there are other little wee bits and pieces. So I'm going to hopefully not lose you guys and go too in depth of kind of the biology part behind it, but I really just wanted to share some of these reasonings why behind we can get some early morning wakings and what we can do to be able to help look to be able to kind of solve them as well. So a big part in what we look at is actually early morning wakings are back to that same reason, is because our little ones are so overtired. So what actually happens is our little ones may be going to bed too late, or they're not napping well, so they're actually ending up with that higher cortisol level, going to sleep at nighttime, which is preventing their bodies to getting into those deep phases of sleep. Like I talked about yesterday, and I'm really happy to re-put that graph. The first 4 hours, that first 4 hours of sleep is the deepest phase of sleep. So when our little ones are going to bed overtired because they haven't napped well, or their bedtime is later on, their bodies miss that first 4 hours, that beautiful non-REM sleep. So what actually happens is in the morning, because they have missed out on that deep phase of non-REM sleep and kind of their body's been fighting, trying to get into it, what happens is that means is they end up starting the day a lot earlier than what they actually should be doing, because their body hasn't been able to kind of transition through the night into that beautiful non-REM sleep, and then kind of coming up to medium light sleep over that nighttime, anywhere between 10 to 12 hours overnight. So it goes all back to us making sure that our children are napping really appropriately during the day, but then also really making sure that we're setting an appropriate bedtime for our little ones. And I know, especially coming in the summer sports, trying to make the most of this beautiful kind of weather. Maybe we're trying to distance ourselves here in Phoenix where the heat is, but making sure that even though it's light, still setting an appropriate bedtime for our little ones, making sure that they're not going to bed too late, so their bodies can transition to all of those lovely sleep cycles that should be going. And that becomes a huge big part of a main reason why we get those early morning wakings. So if you guys are struggling, try bringing bedtime 30 minutes earlier to be able to do it. Reason why, and I should have said this at the start, is note to you guys, early morning wakings is one of the hardest kind of sleep issues to be able to solve. And if any of you guys are like, woohoo, I've got some tools, I'm going to give it a go, it's going to take a good 1 to 2 weeks to be able to help solve it. The main reason is what kind of happens is that if your little one's body is used to waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, just because we kind of bring their bedtime a little bit earlier, it's not an instant fix, because what happens is their beautiful circadian rhythm, it's almost like it gets locked into starting to wake up at 5 a.m. each time in the morning. So what you've got is it's all of a sudden become more habitual. It's locked in, its body is really gearing to be able to kind of start getting up and waking up at that time in the morning as well. So circadian rhythm, what is our circadian rhythm? So the circadian rhythm is our internal biological sleep clock. That's what starts to kind of govern, that controls our waking, our sleeping, and all of our eating cycles. And it's really in tune to our bodies, the different temperatures and kind of the fluctuations during the day as well. So that's why what happens is that when our bodies get used to waking up at 5, and as us as parents, if we start to reinforce that waking at 5 a.m., well, that's when their bodies just start to wake up and it becomes more habitual. Their circadian rhythm becomes locked in. So when we're looking at being able to solve our kind of that early morning wakings, is what we're having to do is we're having to be able to change around those circadian rhythms to be able to kind of help be able to bring forth that change. Kind of an example of what I wanted to kind of do is remembering that last trimester when we would go and sit down at night time, when was the most common times we would feel our newborns start to be more active. So during the day when we're kind of walking around, that was when our babies would sleep during the day. But often at nighttime we'd go put our feet down, and kind of relaxing. That was when our babies were so active. So when our babies are first born, when we have our newborns, what often we find is they have their days and their night times completely backwards. They sleep a lot during the day, but then they're actually at nighttime. That's their more active time, right into the early hours of the wake time, because that's what their bodies have always gotten used to. So we kind of often spend those first couple of weeks changing their days and their nights around. So that's kind of what we're having to do, is we're having to almost reset our little ones' circadian rhythms to be able to help start to bring forth that change. So I suppose once we've kind of known that, what are some other things, and how do we actually end up kind of change their little ones' kind of circadian rhythms to be able to start? So the circadian rhythm starts to obviously be stimulated by light. So one of your biggest keys in being able to help solve those early morning wakings is to be able to make that room as dark as possible. If you guys have plantation shutters, if you have blinds or anything, get some really good blackout blinds. Even if you're taping garbage bags, like black garbage bags with duct tape onto the window, they've got other blackout blinds as well. You're aiming for a good 8 out of 10 for darkness. So during the day, you shouldn't be able to read a book in there. If you can read a book, it's not dark. And what it is when the lights start to get in, obviously as we're approaching summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, what happens is it's not the light that wakes the baby, but between 4 and 7 a.m. is our lightest phase of sleep. So what happens is our babies go, and also so do we. We kind of wake up, but we go back to sleep, wake up, go back to sleep, wake up, go back to sleep. And you'll often see them rolling around, kind of trying to find that comfortable spot. But during one of those wake up periods around 5 a.m., if there is light that's coming through kind of any of the blinds or anything else, what that starts to do is it's going to kickstart that circadian rhythm to be able to starting to increase the temperature and starting to kind of turn on their body. And so what happens is it makes it really hard for the little one's body to start going back to sleep. It kicks in their digestive tract as well, so hunger will start to play a huge big part in as well. So it's really important. That is your biggest key in being able to help solve those early mornings. Make sure that their rooms are as dark as possible, so when that light starts to come in, that they know, okay, well, it's still dark, I can be able to roll over and go back to sleep. That's going to help on the biological side, but then it's also really going to help them to be able to go back to sleep on that other side as well. So that's going to be a big part on that part. 2, protein. So really making sure that our toddler's diet, and I'm going to touch on kind of nutrition more on Friday, but really making sure that when our little ones start to kind of are waking up in that lighter phase of sleep, that actually they're not hungry. So we need to have a look at their diet. What are they eating through a 24-hour period? Are they eating good protein sources? We know proteins are broken down slowly by the body throughout kind of the day and the night time. And what happens is if our babies aren't getting, and our little ones and toddlers aren't getting enough protein sources into their diet, what happens is because proteins stabilize the blood sugar, if our babies wake up during the night and they are legitimately hungry, and what happens is their blood sugars go low, so they become quite hypoglycemic, which then all of a sudden surges adrenaline to come in, which then of course does not make self-settling or resettling in any time of the night or the early mornings possible. So really make sure having a really good look at your little one's diet, and a good over a 24-hour period. Don't just kind of look into one meal as well, and making sure that they're eating well, they're eating really nutrition. You got really good in proteins, not just meat sources. You can look at vegetarian sources for protein as well, and that can be making sure that legitimately when our little ones do wake up in those earlier phases of sleep, that they can be able to go back to sleep each time as well. So that's kind of a big part as well. And then for those ones who are kind of just still on those 2 naps a day, or even kind of just transition to 1 nap a day, really, looking at the timing of nap. What often can happen if we're dealing with even our younger ones and they're kind of stuck waking up in the early morning, we know that we'll often bring that first nap a lot earlier, because what happens is we know our babies are really tired. So we're like, oh, they woke up at 5, let's put them down for that second nap by 8 o'clock. But actually what happens is that 8 a.m. nap time starts to reinforce that early morning waking, because the body is needing more time to get tired enough to go down for that first morning sleep as well. So really making sure that the timings that you have in place for your babies and for your toddlers are really appropriate. Probably my biggest part is when they wake up at 5, use a sleep coaching method until say 7 o'clock, always giving them the opportunity to go back to sleep in the morning. If we end up continually getting them up at 5:30, what happens is that reinforces that circadian rhythm to wake up, to start moving and about, because of that social interaction then that happens the light. So what happens is our babies will just continually keep going and getting used to, get going for the day. And that becomes more habitual, that waking each time as well. So really look that if those timings, so if your little one is still on a morning nap, keep it nice and short, because that lunchtime one is the nap that we're really aiming for, to have it long. If you guys are just on 1 nap a day, make sure it's nothing pre-midday. Anywhere from 12 and 1, we're putting them down for that first sleep. And that's really important, because we want to make sure that we're giving them enough time to get tired enough to go down for that lunchtime nap, but not enough to keep reinforcing that 5 a.m. wake up, because that's an early kind of wake up and everything else like that. So that's kind of that big part as well. And then kind of for your other ones, and really big part to be able to really work on. For our children who are a good 2.5 years of age and over, I love using a sleep training clock. And I know people are like, oh, I've got it, I've used it, it didn't work. A big part of it is always to remember they are tools. And often when our babies, we know that 4 to 7 a.m. is the lightest phase of sleep. So when they're kind of waking up, having something that can kind of signalize to them, no, it's not time to wake up, they can need to go back to sleep, is a really good tool to be able to use. It actually took my younger ones, it took until 5 until she started to kind of creep up earlier and earlier for me waking up, and I was just like, oh, I've got to do something, what do I need? And I got a sleep training clock. So this is your basic, it's called Okay to Wake, and it's really great because you can come here, you can manually set it, and kind of set the time, and when you're kind of working, I always say just move it in 15-minute increments. So if your little one, kind of your older toddler has started to wake, at 5 or 5:30, kind of just start to push it by 15 minutes each time. And what happens is that they kind of waking, no, it's not green, go back to bed. So it takes the pressure off us, I feel. So we're not kind of getting into fights. We're not getting, go back to sleep, it's so early. And say, is your light green? No, it's not. Well, then go back to sleep. But make sure you marry it with something that's really important to give them something to work towards. Know that this is a tool. This itself is not going to solve your early morning waking, but use it as a tool in being able to help kind of be able to solve it. You have this one. My one that I use, which I really like, is the Hatch Baby Rest. And it's one of my ones I recommend a lot because what I love about it is it's got a white noise machine as well, and then it's also got a night light, and then we've also got the program settings, and you can set it all by your phone, which is absolutely fantastic, because say you guys went on holiday or you guys ended up having a late night, you can kind of push your start of your day an extra 30 minutes, so you know that you'll actually get another 30 minutes on there, which I really, really like as well. So that's called the Hatch Baby Rest, and I can put the links to that one there as well, on that side. On there as well. So remember that tool, give them something to work towards. So maybe if they stay in bed for like 15 minutes, so they stay till the green, they might get a sticker on their chart, and once they've earned like 5 stickers, then they can get a special surprise or something. So use it as a tool, just not on itself, and then you should be able to help get some really good success. Okay, so Lindsay asked me a question. So what time frame between the 15-minute increments, day to day or week? I would do it daily. Because we know, especially our toddlers, I mean, they can easily cry for a good 15 minutes. So just to be able to kind of push it up by 15 minutes as we're kind of resetting it until you reach your desired time and they're starting to sleep. And that's probably another thing, because the 4 to 7 a.m. is the lightest phase of sleep. Anything, when we're talking about using a sleep training method and we kind of look at all the different methods, the less stimulation that we're actually doing, the actually better that you'll get the results. If you guys are normally a family who prefers a more hands-on settling technique, it's a lot more gentle, like using kind of pick up, put down, or an in the ring gradual withdrawal. No, it will take a lot longer, because 4 to 7 a.m. is our lightest phase of sleep. So when you're in there, what you're actually doing is you're almost reinforcing, that stimulation, and so it's exciting. Woohoo, mum's here, I'll try to interact with them, rather than kind of encouraging them to go back down to sleep. So what I would suggest is, if you are okay with kind of, your babe wakes up at 5:30 and you're great with leaving them till 6:37, then the less stimulation in the room as possible, fantastic. Remember, it's not going to be forever. I'd say probably about 1 to 2 weeks max, you should start to be able to see those really good results. If you felt like, oh, I can't do this, I have to be in the room, I'd say, okay, we'll go in the room, lie down and just shushing. So no kind of picking them up or kind of lots of that stimulating settling techniques, just laying down, role modeling and everything as well. And that's some of your big keys in being able to know, hey, how can I soothe it? How can I help them to be able to settle down? And to be able to kind of, get them back sleeping during those light phases of sleep. So I think that probably all of my main parts I wanted to be able to touch on with those early mornings. Just know that, as I said, early morning rising, because it's biological, because that circadian rhythm is set and it's been locked in from always starting and jump starting that body at between 5 and 6. No, it's gonna take time to start to reset, but if you put these things in place within about 1 to 2 weeks, you should start to see those amazing changes. If you guys are wanting some help, know that this is what I'm really passionate about, and I love working with families, customizing plans to be able to help solve your little one's sleep issue. Whether it's your first, second, or fourth, it doesn't matter. That's just what I love to do. So always feel free to kind of reach out. Me and one of my team would love to be able to kind of help and come alongside and work with you guys. Otherwise, if you have any questions, pop them below. I'd love for you guys kind of to share. And last but not least, if anybody would like the Okay to Wake clock, tag some tired mums and help share this video for me, and we'll kind of put you guys into the draw, and we'll see how much we can kind of get spread over the next 24 hours, and I'll draw it as well because I've got a spare one. So that will be exciting. I'll post those details below as well. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm going to go put my feet up because it's still nap time here at my house. So enjoy, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow for a Q&A all day. Bye.